So we're going to further examine modals, or German helping verbs, in the narrative past or simple past tense. So the first thing we need to remember is that the narrative past tense or simple past is typically called narrative because we're retelling a story. So the difference between narrative past or simple past and present perfect would be like to say I did eat versus I ate. So I ate, or I drank, or I ran, or I bought. Those would be narrative or simple past tense. So in German, we go from present to simple past. Here's a regular verb sample with kaufen, to buy. So ich kaufe ein Buch, I buy a book, to ich kaufte ein Buch, I bought a book. An example in the irregular verb list, I chose essen. So ich esse Pizza, I eat pizza, versus ich aß Pizza, I ate pizza. So today we're going to examine what occurs with the modals. So modals are treated much like the irregular verbs. So we're going to review the irregular verb chart and see what happens. So something a little bit like this. Surprisingly, the endings look very familiar to the t, test, t, ten, tet, ten endings of the regular chart. So just let's look at the endings. Okay, so we have the base, which we'll learn what the bases of the modals are. For do, we have an st ending. For erzes, it's the simple base again, which we'll have to look at and learn. Wir depends on whether or not the base ends in an E. If the base ends in an E, then we just put an N. But if the base does not end in an E, like aß for to eat, then we add the en. Wir aßen Pizza, we ate pizza. T for ear, and once again, zz, the en or n, depending. So one of the things you're going to notice about the modals is that the modal bases do end in an E. And since the modal bases end in an E, you're not going to have this E. That would look weird to have two E's next to each other. So we'll just simply use the N endings for that. So take a minute to write these down. Something you should note, and definitely also have in your notes, is the fact that there's no umlauts. So the U umlaut is dropped. So können becomes konnte. Mögen has an interesting change. That G becomes the CH. So if you think about möchte, would like, that's our subjunctive of that. Müssen to musste. And then sollen and wollen didn't have umlauts to begin with. So write these down. So we're going to go ahead and use the narrative past tense of können. So the base is konnte. So ich konnte, du konntest. Okay, so there's our st. So base st, base. Ich konnte, du konntest, sie es konnte. And now remember just the n. We don't want two e's there. Wir konnten, ihr konntet, sie konnten. So here's one sample of a modal in the narrative past tense. So go ahead and try these 6 sentences. Pause this, write them down, and use these modals in the narrative past tense. So for instance, instead of saying I have to drive by car to the department store on number 6, you would say I had to drive. So instead of doing present tense, make it past tense. When you're ready to check your answers, resume the video. So remember, there are no umlauts in any of these. Frau's Eltern wollte, dass Frau etwas über Deutsch lernt. Nummer 2. Heidi und Anne sollten viele Bücher schreiben. Nummer 3. Wolfgang wollte sich eine Stelle bewerben. Rotkäppchen, Little Red Riding Hood, dürfte ihr neues Kleid tragen. Nummer 5. Ihr solltet schnell nach Hause kommen. Oops, I forgot the period. Don't forget that. Nummer 6. Mit dem Auto musste ich zum Kaufhaus fahren. Vielen Dank.